Welcome to Mint Views. Today we shall discuss gender inequality. The World Economic Forum conduct also a survey on gender equality, and they construct something called the Gender Gap Index. On this particular index, in the latest report for 2020, it turns out India has slipped another 4 ranks. We are down to rank 112 out of 153 countries. Earlier, in the previous year's report, we were at 108. That's 4 ranks down. This trend has been going on for several years, and that's what we are going to discuss today. There is one bright spot, if you may call it that. On political participation, India is ranked 18th, which is not terribly bad. This is political representation in various houses of lawmaking. But the basic issue here is gender inequality. India seems to be doing badly, and it seems to be getting worse. So what's going on around here? Shrija, what do you think?
Our rank in political representation might be nonetheless good, but talk about economy, the major part of the society which gauges a development of the human. So India has fared really bad when you look at the economic participation in metric, because India is the only country among the 153 nations to have the widest gender gap in terms of economic participation, as per the report says. So this suggests that something is really not correct when you look at the entire economic workforce. If you look at the labor force participation, women have a very skewed ratio in there. And if you look at the child mortality rate, so this is not just about the economy, in the very broader aspect of socio-economic indicators, women are failing, and women are not being provided or afforded the opportunities which the society at large is afforded. If it's a given that including women or making them participants in the economic progress gels well for both the nation and for the economy. It's a given in so many reports. The multilateral institutions, bodies have consistently advocated for it. But then it's still languishing. You do have schemes like financial inclusion, the skill development initiatives, which are microfinance schemes, which are focused on getting more women into the rural workforce. While those may be there, but if you look at the urban corporate ladder, women in boardrooms have a dismal percentage. Women labor force in the formal sector, the participation of women in the formal sector is such, it's languishing. So it does tell you there's a very systemic structural deficit which is creating such a massive gap, I should say, or a disparity between the genders across the country.
So we need a paradigm shift to fix this. But the question is, we do know there is an institutional bias against women in society everywhere around us. But why is it worsening? I don't understand that particular bit. After all, society in general everywhere should progress. What might be happening here? Rohit, do you have a view on this?
I think there's been a reinforcement of gender stereotypes in the media, in our movies, in our TVs in the past few decades, and women have often been mostly been portrayed as homemakers and nurturers, and there have been very few attempts to break that stereotype, break that mold. There should be some effort, some attempts to bring up boys differently, so that when they grow up, the expectations that they have with women, that's not that of a homemaker, but they are willing to accept them in other roles also.
Is this social conditioning a function of how conservative society on the whole may be getting? Could that be a problem here? Are we becoming more conservative as a society in India? Srijay, do you think so?
India has always remained, has been a conservative society, and this can be seen in our attitudes, in our responses to violent sexual assaults that we witness across India. For example, in Unnao, what kind of reaction was there from lawmakers themselves, from the general population itself? So this conservatism can be seen in the responses, in the way we have responded to these cases, these incidents. But I tend to agree with Srija. when she says that there is a systemic structural deficit, gender deficit, and that I think has got to do a lot with women's access to higher education. Fewer women have access to higher education than men, and and this is a structural inequality to begin with. And I also think if you want to kind of bridge this economic inequality that prevails in a society, companies need to take greater steps, in the sense that they probably need to be more flexible in hiring back women who have taken leave to bring up their families, raise a family, and when they want to join back the labor force, these women should be given all kinds of flexibilities, all latitude, so that they can slowly get into the groove.
I'm not sure if corporate policies alone can actually make a difference. This is a larger social problem that pervades society more or less. Anant, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of biases in our society, in our polity, that hinder the development or inclusion of women in every sphere of life. But there is a glimmer of hope. What they point out is that in cities and urban areas, the parameters and the survey findings are looking much better than what they appear in rural areas. So this has something to do with the phase of economic development in which a society is. So my hope is that as development reaches all the corners of our country, these parameters will improve.
But yeah, there is a systemic problem here, and I think there's something. The trouble is addressing it through policy may not actually work. We may need a consciousness that goes across all of society. More importantly, I think we need to actually re-begin inculcating basic human values amongst everybody, and that actually starts at the ground level, at home, amongst people. And in a world where everyone's connected these days through electronic media, through WhatsApp and things like that, it should be easier, but apparently it's not. The key thing at the end of it would be to emphasize a basic value called human equality. Everybody is equal. Everybody belongs to the same species. It's as simple as that. Gender should not be a factor for anything at all, apart from the fact that human beings are human beings. If that message can go out across the country, it would help. Till then, we're probably staring at further declines. That's unfortunate. Thank you.